90% of policing is about communication. It's a made-up statistic. I've made it up because it's what I believe.
Yeah. How does your team, on a day-to-day basis, engage with the local community?
So on a day-to-day basis, we use our calendar and Outlook, and we fill it through with regular engagements. Like, I don't know, for instance, it might be for the black community, a coffee morning, or the Hindus, and then we go to those events and we engage with the communities. We show our support and respect for other communities.
Would you say that you support the recent social media ban for under 16 since you have young children as well? Or would you say in terms of policing that can also be harmful?
Speaking as a father, yeah, absolutely. I don't want my kids having social media. The world is really, really dangerous, and we just want to protect people from that danger.
If you've got a passion for something, you're never going to give up.
Hi everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Youthology. I'm your host Sarah and
I'm Manur. Would you risk your life for the community?
I'm not sure, but Phill Boyd does it every day. Now let's find out more about him.
Joining us today is Sergeant Phill Boyd. So for anyone that has missed our previous episode, could you please introduce yourself and explain a little bit about your role?
My name's Phill Boyd and I'm a police sergeant with Bedfordshire Police, and my current role within Bedfordshire Police is the Community Cohesion Sergeant. So I've got a team, a very small team of people whose responsibility is officers to monitor and help manage community tensions. That's the broad heading of what my team do. And that's I think it's been established here since around about 2009 and taken on various different forms and different responsibilities, but ultimately that's the main role with the team. So it's quite a niche team. I think at one point it might have been sort of copied in other forces now. We were the only version of this in the whole of England. Oh, wow. So because the royal we identified that we didn't have good relationships with some members of our established communities in I think particularly Luton, but ultimately that's been expanded over the years to have hopefully strong relationships and rapports with partners from all different communities in Bedfordshire. The rationale for that being that when something happens, whether it be locally, nationally or internationally, we've got those relationships already in place to start a communication to help resolve whatever that issue may be, and hopefully keep the peace, which is what police officers ultimately want to do.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Oh, that sounds quite interesting. So since the last New Year was about a year ago now, so what about your daily priorities and challenges have basically changed?
So the challenges ultimately are very similar. When I first, after a few days of being in this role, Hamas invaded Israel. Israel struck back in Palestine. A very political issue, but this resonated hugely in Bedfordshire to the point, after I think 5 or 6 days after that conflict started, there was around about 2,000 people in St George's Square in Luton protested about it. But by that point, this team, we knew people in the community who were wanting to do that. We'd reached out to people. We knew they wanted to peacefully protest. So we raised that. Our team raised it with bosses within, people much senior to me who make much more critical decisions than me. We raised that this was going to happen, and we because we've got to police things as well and make sure everyone's safe. And there's a lot of people in the world with a lot of different views, aren't there? I mean, there's two polarized views there, aren't there, about who's done the worst. I mean, I'm not getting into all that, but we just ultimately focus on Bedfordshire. But that's just an example of how things nationally, internationally can resonate here. And that's the start of my career in this. I've been in this role now nearly 3 years, nearly coming up to 3 years. But since then, we've had a lot of stuff, haven't we? We've had the Jewish community impacted by all the attacks in London, which meant we stood up additional patrols in Bedfordshire for our Jewish community. There was a synagogue in Luton. There's various Jewish businesses that felt vulnerable. And there's been loads of incidents. There was a terrorist attack in Edinburgh that focused on the Muslim community. There was an incident in Suffolk where there was threats to a community and a lot of people were arrested. And these things all resonate here. things over in Pakistan, India, Kashmir, all very topical issues that lead to protests, some within the last month in Luton. But we just, like I keep coming back to, we just want to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And we recognise that people can get, there's some really awful things going on in the world, and people want to express their,
We've
support.
got a really active community.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're fully behind that. So the main thing is we want to know what your plans are and how you're feeling, and my team can really help facilitate that.
Definitely, just like manage the peace.
Yeah, that's it, and say, look, but tell us you're going to do that, because if you don't, what if someone else turns up who doesn't agree with you? Because that's the way of the world, there's, we've just got to manage it and make sure that people are peaceful, because you can see, flare points, you've seen a lot of London Metropolitan Police is a really difficult area to work in, I think, for the officers. I'm sympathetic to that, because the officers are in the middle and they're just like, man, I just want everyone to get along today and not hurt each other.
You guys aren't like on a specific team, you're just like for everyone.
Absolutely, we're not on anyone's side, we're apolitical. It's an expression I only learnt in the police, although we're led by politicians, but we're not here to police with any favour for anyone or any fear of anyone. We're like neutral, there's the law, and if you break it there's a consequence, but we don't want you to. So we're just going to talk to you first, and that communication is probably, I love making up statistics. This is the best one someone made up to me. 90% of policing is about communication. It's a made up statistic. I've made it up because it's what I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's true.
I like your statistics.
It's a good statistic because it's about how you communicate with people. And it's great in this role because I get to talk to people, good people who are in the community leaders, faith leaders who want to, they want peace in their communities. They want the children not to hurt each other, and we want the same. So it's good that we've got those relationships, I think. From last time I was here, it's different things, but impacting similar communities. There's a lot going on in the world, and as much as we talk about cohesion, the world is divided. Yeah. But I only want to focus on Bedfordshire, and Bedfordshire, I think, is a really cohesive place to live and to thrive and to work, and that's what we just want to keep it that way, basically.
I personally like it here.
I love it. I love Bedfordshire. It's a great place.
I agree.
So on the last episode, you mentioned your work with Hate Crime Awareness Week and how you went into schools to kind of raise awareness with students and children. So I feel like protests can very easily become hate crimes. So what would you say is the best way to prevent that from happening? I know you've said communication, but is there something else that might kind of keep things a bit more civilized?
Well, look, I mean, I'm quite honest with my view on the world with hate, right? I really think you're going to find it really hard to change an adult's view of the world. I'm just being honest. So the thing about going into the schools, and the reason I pick, because we've done that project again that we did a couple of years ago. We're going to redesign, or the kids are going to redesign the posters. And when I go so I pick some schools in each. Bedfordshire's divided into community safety partnerships. There's the Bedford and Central, and then there's Luton. I don't know why, but there is. So we pick a couple of schools in each, and we go into them. And I generally do. I love engagement with kids. And we do have a dedicated team to that as well, the education diversion team, who go into schools and specifically give inputs on hate and online safety and be safe and all these different things. So we've done it again because I think that's where I can have the most influence of, especially the year, let me get these right because it wasn't like that when I was young, but the year 6, so the junior school before it goes primary, before it goes into secondary, because something happens when kids get into secondary. I think they've got too many influences now. Probably did back in my day as well, but there is just a physical difference when you go into that big school. There's suddenly you're with kids when you're 11 who are 16, and you're 16, you're nearly an adult really, a couple of years off, and that influence is there. Now the influence has changed. You've got the online influence, the phones that are just the most dangerous thing a kid can have in their possession, and the most wonderful thing at the same time. It's that two-sided sword, double-edged sword.
Yeah, double-edged.
That's the expression. So I think if you're going to influence change, you do it then. And the reason I do it as well is because I'm trying to, I know it's a terminology I don't like, I can't think of another one, breaking down barriers. I want kids to really like. I don't think they have to have respect for the police, but I want them to get to know their local officers. Now, that's easy in Durham, where I used to police. So it's not easy, but if you go to some of the smaller villages and towns, my brother was a sergeant there for 30 years in Durham, County Durham, and he went to like a junior school, giving input, and then saw those kids grow up into the secondary school. They knew him, you know, that's great. But how many schools are here? That's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really good if it can happen, but I just think all coppers got to try their best, and I think getting into those schools at that age is the best thing for children, and they get to see me. You know, don't get me wrong. When I was a frontline officer, you know, the truth is, and I'm just being honest, is I can point my fingers in people's faces and tell them not to cross the line, or there'll be a consequence. All coppers can do that. Yeah. You have to, because it's a dangerous world. But obviously, you know, when I go into those schools, I want them to almost see me like my children see me, and that like as someone who's fun, who's engaging, who wants to talk to them, who wants to educate them, and wants them to understand something. So I go through all the elements of what hate is, and there's obviously race, religion, disability, sexual orientation. You know, there's some things that are quite tricky and political. But I just go through them, and some of the teachers go, oh, like, we don't sometimes talk about that because, you know, religion's a key thing around here. And the truth is, these are things that are often difficult to talk about. Some aspects of religion, you know, don't mix with LGBTQ+, but we just got to have those conversations and just say, look, this is what a hate crime is. And do you know what? All the kids, when we go into those schools, they get it. They get it really quickly as well. And that's where that's where I hope there's some influence. And that's where it starts. So that's me doing what I think is the best I can do to change, sow the seeds of change. That's someone, I didn't make that up, I copied it. But that's what you want to do. You want to lay something down, and you know, the kids have got to make their own decisions, but they've had hopefully an experience with me and a couple of the PCSOs or PCs that will go in that they'll never forget. We make it fun, we shout a lot, and we get them engaging and asking questions, and we do the hat thing. We have kids all like wearing the hat, which is great. But hopefully they'll remember something, and that's what I want. And then the idea is, if they ever see me walking around the street, they'll come and talk to me. And the proof's in the pudding, because at the River Festival, the Bedford River Festival, so I was working that both days this year in July. And about 3 sets of kids approached me with their parents, wanting me to meet their parents because they remembered me from the school.
That's lovely.
And that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that, man. What I liked about it is they wanted me to meet the parents. You know, this is the police officer that came into my school, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right, man. You know, a few more pictures, but I thought I walked away going, that's a good thing. That they you know, recognised me and wanted to talk to me. So I think that's a good thing.
Oh, that's lovely. So you talked about going into schools. Like, how about on like the streets? How does your team, like on a day-to-day basis, engage with the local community?
So on a day-to-day basis, I mean, we use our calendar and Outlook, because I forget things because I'm getting old, and we fill it through with regular engagements. Like, I don't know, for instance, some of the faith locations or community centres might hold regular engagements for certain communities. There might be for the black community a coffee morning, or the Hindu do a luncheon thing, and you know, we fill our diary full of these things. We also, because we're so in touch with our community contacts, the community leaders, the council, we find out about events, and we map our weeks ahead of us, and then we go to those events and we engage with the communities from different faiths, from the LGBTQ+ community. You know, we show our support and respect for other communities. And it's not just about turning up in a few pictures. We do that. Yeah. It's fun. But actually we sit down and talk to people. We're like, how are you? Like, how's your community? You know, how is everyone feeling because of this incident or that incident? Or it could be something the police have done, you know, when, you know, the police make mistakes, and there's obviously you'll read the news. You can't read the news one week to the next and not see something that someone's done somewhere. And we want to know how that affects communities, and because things do affect trust, and it's really difficult to measure that. But that's just like ongoing work, and so that's how we do it. That's how we manage our team, by engaging. And sometimes you can spend a day just calling people and, you know, keep in touch, because you don't walk in a faith location all the time, and sometimes there's not anyone there. Yeah. But we have those conversations as consistently as we can, and that's how we do it.
So you reach out to everybody they possibly can.
As everyone is, I mean, bearing in mind there's me. The minute I've got one PC and one PCSO, I should have a couple more PCs, but people have left, and the people are doing different things. But and then obviously my people in my force, in Bedfordshire Police from a senior position, want to know how communities are feeling now. If you were asked that, how do you know that? And it's difficult. What's Luton got? Like 270,000 people at least in it, living in it. How do you say how a community's feeling? The way we have worked out that's a way to potentially measure it is if we've got contacts in all those faith locations who've got access to a lot of people and can talk to a lot of people and committee members and things like that, then we can give them a voice internally to the Bedfordshire Police, and we can share their views on things, and we can submit community-led intelligence about this community's feeling this because of this, and this is the advice we've given them, and because all those horrible incidents, people really feel vulnerable. Like the Jewish community, the Muslim community, they're two examples that have been quite high up there in terms of national incidents, and they feel vulnerable. So we've got to, and sometimes just a conversation can really help, because we can reiterate quite often, touch wood, that there's no there's rarely been any intelligence or information that suggests there's any threat in Bedfordshire, and that I believe is because of the work that a lot of people do to pull us together. And people like the Luton Council of Faiths, have you heard of them? I
have, yeah.
They're amazing. You can go to one. You can ask to be invited, maybe, and watch what they do. But they're a fantastic charity who ultimately bring all the faith leaders together, and they just discuss on the table problems and differences of views. And you can imagine that, after the Middle East, the conflicts, and people have got a really different view on things, and very emotional, very passionate, rightly so. That's good to see people like that. They're trying to protect ultimately their communities, aren't they? But they talk about it and they rationalise it, and by the end of the meeting, everyone's shaking hands and doing behaving like people should behave. It's just a shame we can't, make the world do that.
But it's like you guys have a team of 3 at the moment, right?
It's a very small team, but I expand.
A lot of work being done by you guys.
But I expand that. When I can't go to things, I could spend all my weekends and evenings doing something. We reach out to the local community teams. Can you go to this event? Show your support, engage, talk to people. This is our contact there. You might meet someone else who we can talk to. There's always communities I want to do more work with, and it's just difficult with a small team. But this is why I want to come to. Because Montel's heavily involved in this, isn't he? I love talking to Montel. He's a great contact of ours. And he mentioned this to me. And man, I'll come, because it might open doors to something else. The fact is, I walked through the street. I was telling you, going to St Mary's Church for an event, and I saw Forever. And I was like, and I only knew it because of this. And she's like, I can't believe you remember my name. And I said, yeah, of course I do, man. How you doing? And talked about her singing. That wouldn't have happened without this. So there's someone else I know who gets to see me a bit more, and then might know a bit of, whatever. I'm sure she's never had any experience with the police, but she knows one now, and hopefully it's a good experience. And that when I go back to that really difficult thing to measure about trust and confidence, there's little pieces of it that come together by seeing a police officer, and in a safe situation. And obviously I'm not talking about when you call the police and something terrible is going on, but I still want that to be a positive experience with the police officers and the service and any investigation they might have. But the engagement of my team is really important, that proactive engagement, for you seeing a police officer who can do all that stuff to protect you, can lock people up, but actually we're proactively engaging with you, so that we're just people who want to help you. That's the crux of it. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I love your outlook on the whole situations and everything.
Yeah, I think it's. If I compare myself, I've been in the police. I joined in 2003, so about a month ago, I just clicked into my 24th year now. And if I compare myself to my 23-year-old, I think my 23-year-old version would be like, "What you doing, man?" Like he wanted to go to the like fights and the disorder and the run into crazy stuff and the burglars and that is great. Like the truth is, there's a fun. It's fun. Fun sounds like I'm ruthless, but I'm not. It's exciting. It's a rush. It is like an adrenaline rush. Your hands are like shaking. You know, it still happen now if I went to something, which I did not so long ago. But yeah, so I think you'd be like, "Phil, what you doing?" But I actually, because I'm a bit older and wiser now, with less hair, I would be able to explain to him that this is a good thing for policing. But it's hard to measure, and like your arrests and all that sort of stuff and detections. What my team do now is really difficult to measure, but I'm convinced it's of value.
I'm sure it's like undercover work, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, yeah. So you know, we are heavily present on social media. That was a big thing I brought into my team. I said I want people to see what we do and the engagement that we do and the support we give to communities. But yeah, so we're on the social media pages, mainly like Facebook on ours. But yeah, and that's how you reach more like an audience. But there's obviously a really difficult audience on social media that. I think some people hate the world, but it's really it's easy to show that on social media, almost without a consequence as well.
I feel like we've done a lot of work with the police because of Attentive, things like the Joint Protective Scrutiny Panel and just other work in general, like involving police officers in our events or within our projects. And a lot of those are led by young people, such as like our age, right? So would you say things like that in terms of youth leadership is something that motivates you and your team to keep going with the work that you do?
I think so, yeah. I think the reason I like that school stuff so much, and it's a bit out of my remit, I can tell bosses are sort of like, but that's for education diversion, not you, but I personally love doing it because I can see the kids' faces, and I feel like I can see that I'm making a difference to them, and you know, whatever opinions they might have of police. And you do get little snippets in the school when the kids put their hand up and go, you know, police came to my house the other day, and you're like, you know, you look at the teacher and you're like, you know, the whisper like something's going on with that kid, and then because of that, like, and some of it's quite serious. I'll go and sit with that kid and I'll draw with him. You know, don't even have to talk to him. There was one kid I know had been through a lot, and the teacher was being a great teacher and whispered to me something. I sat with the kid for like 20 minutes and just let him draw, and I tried to do a silly picture of me, and you know, but I don't know. It's hard to measure what that'll do, but I know I don't know what whether the police did anything. I don't think the police would have done anything wrong. But you imagine being a kid and seeing someone like maybe remove someone you love from that address, even that person's done something not particularly nice. You know, you're never going to leave that with a positive impression of the police. But so I just wanted him to I don't know, just to see that. I just wanted to sit with him and talk with him and mess on with him and do some drawing with him. So yeah, but again, difficult to measure. But doing any engagement with young people is critical to the future, because 23 years, man, and people are still hurting each other. So we need to keep being proactive and coming up with new things and being consistent with our attempts to change things, because you know, you can think one thing's worked and then there's got a whole new generation of people coming up who then have different thoughts or exposure to different things and different technology, and so it's ever evolving. It just never ends, the mission to try and educate young people about what is going on in the world. And as I say to my kids, you know, the world, and only the older ones, I've got like 14 down to 4, like I said, the world is really, really dangerous, and we just want to protect people from that danger. Yeah,
definitely. So you've mentioned social media quite a bit. Would you say that you support the recent social media ban for under 16, since you have young children as well? Or would you say in terms of policing that can also be harmful?
Well, in terms of policing, I know it can be harmful. You know, I don't work in any of these units that look at the, you know, where you can't remember what the unit's called, but we've got specific units that look like online crime and abuse of children and adults and stuff like that. But sexual exploitation, you know, we've got teams dedicated to look at those things. So I know social media is dangerous, really dangerous. So, I mean, I'm not sure if this is a political statement, but yes, speaking as a father, yeah, absolutely. I don't want my kids having social media. I don't want them to see it because, no. I know people can say, but you should monitor what your kids do. But actually, in life, the phones are complicated enough. I couldn't find the app for Little the other day on my phone. I was looking at my door, going, "Where's the app to get scan this thing?"
Yeah.
Couldn't find it. So I missed my little discount. But that my point is, social media is hard for parents to look at. You've got to try being a bit savvy and put in the parent controls. We did all that at our house because my daughter has got they've got WhatsApp on their phones because when they go to school, you do worry about them walking home. I didn't have a phone till I was 22, man. I just got it the day, I think, not long before I joined the police. I didn't have a phone, so I never had to worry about it. My parents never had to worry about it. The only time, someone rang my landline, a girlfriend at the time, I had to speak to her on the telephone, with the wire under the stairs like Harry Potter, and that because I didn't want my parents to hear, when I was like 15 or 16 or whatever. But it's really dangerous. I do as a father, because I shouldn't say this as Bedfordshire Police, because I'm not representing Bedfordshire Police when I say it, but as a father, absolutely I support that ban. I can't wait for it to come into place. I think it's the right thing to do until the government get a grip over the dangers of social media, and I think that's just starting to happen. I've read things in the news just today, I think, about Facebook and is it Meta and Instagram being taken to court about putting programs or software, whatever, in place that make children addicted to their phones. I mean, even sometimes when their phone tells you how long you've been looking at your phone.
It's a bit worrying.
And I've been out with my kids all day, literally at parks and whatever, theme parks and all the summer. I've done loads of that. And it says I've been on my phone for 3 hours. I'm like, how have I even done that? Because I've been out for 8 hours, but it's just all you just do it all the time, don't you? And if there's something on there that's doing that, especially to young kids, because I can't really put myself in that position because I never had it. But if I do that as an adult, kids must be I remember I wasn't that, we grew up in a house, we had to be careful with money. We had 3 older brothers, but my mate had a Commodore 64 and then an Amiga. Right, at the time, that was the best computer you could have before a Sega came in and a Nintendo. I think I've got that right in time. This is early 90s. I couldn't wait to go to his house because I didn't have that. So imagine then having the next phone, so I get it in terms of, I couldn't wait to get to his house to play this. Oh, wow, that looks amazing, that game. And now they've got, some of the games are crazy. So no, I get it, actually. I totally get why they'll be hooked on a phone. But then I'm convinced that I had a better childhood by going and playing in the woods and playing at parks and, running outside and playing football. I'm sure that's better for me. Joining a sports team, I'm convinced that's an important thing to be part of a team when you're younger, whatever that might be, whether it's sports, social. I think there's an answer there, and there's lots of questions in Luton at the minute. The result of an incident not so long ago, a murder. You'll have seen in the news, and this has happened unfortunately before, and people are saying, how can we change things? And I'm convinced that part of the answer, it's very complicated, lies in children having access to the right groups to teach them. Rugby taught me a lot about discipline, because I know what it's like to be a young. All I can say is I know what it's like to be a young man, and I was I had lots of energy and aggression, and I think a lot of lads have that as well. And you always hear these stories about people who made it in boxing, who had that energy, but then took it out with discipline and got taught that actually this is a sport and this is professionalism and this is, turning up on time. There's a whole discipline to it that comes to it, and friendship and leadership and role models. Yeah, I'm convinced that something. I'm going off on a tangent here. I told you I'd do that, but yeah, I think there's lots to be done in Luton.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's great to have these perspectives. Moving back to policing, you've said that you've done so many different stuff, like going to schools and standard policing. How do you adapt to switch between these different kind of roles in the community?
Well, do you know, when you go to a domestic in progress, it's the ultimate scenario of you having to have two sides of your character in policing. You've got a victim on one side who, this is a stereotypical example, I'm being honest. where you go to some person, there's a clear victim, and then who's been injured, and then you've got another person in the house who is the suspect and has hurt that person, and you suspect they've caused those injuries. You've got to go from, are you okay? What's happened? Right, can I have an ambulance to this location, please?
Yeah.
You could say first, you're going to be safe. You just stay here now, and then you might get whatever your colleagues do, and you look after this person, and then you know you've got a problem upstairs because you've done checks en route, and you know that person's got previous markers for violence. You can hear them smashing the place up upstairs. So from being all, you're right, are you okay? It's going to be fine. We're here to protect you. Your kids are okay. You know, stay there. Lock the door. I'm going upstairs. And you can't be like that when you go upstairs, can you? So that person that goes upstairs has got to be different to that one downstairs, but you've got to be the same level of professionalism, the same level of respect and courtesy, because ultimately at that point, although you've got a strong feeling of what's happened and who's responsible, you've got to arrest someone under suspicion of an offence, and there's an investigation's got to take place. But yeah, you've got that person upstairs is probably going to see a very different person than what the victim says, because there's going to be a restraint. You want that person handcuffed. They might not want to be handcuffed, and that's when policing can become really tricky, can't it? Because that person, for whatever reason, might think they've done nothing wrong. They might be under the influence. They might have mental health issues. They might have had something awful happen to them, and they might be the victim of something as well. Like, life's really complicated. But we want the same result, and that's ultimately justice. Really, we want to follow the rules of the law, and we want to protect people. And some scenarios are easier to understand than others, but you've got to change your style. And that's what I do find that engagement quite easy. I like doing that. It just reminds me of being with my kids when I'm trying to have fun, and we're out and doing things, and people see your personality. And I think I've really tried to let that come through. Whereas if I went to a job and there was a fight on the town centre, you were out, nighttime economy, we call it, when Friday and Saturday night when people are out, you might see me run past you and just put someone on, which I have done, put someone on the floor. What you might not have seen is I've just seen them swinging a fist at someone's head or have a weapon, and I've done that before. I've put someone straight on the ground. It might look awful to you, but actually I'm trying to protect everyone, because stopping that person hurting someone. So I think I can change it quite quickly, really. I think you get better when you do it more frequently, so I'm probably a bit out of practice, but it wouldn't take me long to get in it. There was an event last year, I won't say the event, but I was running with my shorts on and this top, and then there was reports that someone at the end of the event, long after the event, had a knife. So I had to go. I was literally posing with pictures for someone. Phil, someone's got a knife over there. Tap me on the shoulder. That's easy. It's easy for me, obviously, because I'm a police officer. So I turned around. I was with my deputy chief constable, like the second in charge of the police, and I said, "Man with a knife." Almost, I told him, like, back me up. Yeah. Because I've got my shorts on. And I just ran a 10k in a PB time. So thank you. I was absolutely ruined, by the way, because I never ran so fast, literally. And we grabbed hold of the guy, quite firm. Took him to the knife was hanging out of his pocket. Got the weapon, quite a large knife. Bang! I had to take control of him. What else has he got? Is he, what's his response going to be to us finding the weapon? I took control of him, swung him round, put him on the floor, nice and calm, no injuries. Talked to him, communication. But I was firm with him. I wasn't, high. They went from that to get on the ground now. And then I'm telling him, you're under, my DCC got the arrest before me, fair play to him. But, I explained what we were doing, why I've taken him to the ground. We had to call it in. And, I can see the light. I've got to see the light-heartedness, the light in some moments like that. Because when I got back to the station, the duty inspector said, Phil, I've never seen someone in a shirt, tie, epaulets. Because I did it like this for fun, because lots of kids see me and, hopefully recognise me. And he'd never seen a cop detaining someone on the ground with my shorts on and my little knobbly, hairy knees. But, but look at that. Great engagement. All that stuff, trust and confidence, all that building, and then actually that's what we can do in the police. We protect. I don't think this lad was. I think he was just a bit silly, carrying a weapon. but he didn't hurt anyone that day, and that's because of the great response from the people who were organising the event and the security staff, their communication with us, and then that's it. We intervened and turned on the other side of policing, which is firm and friendly, professional, but we got the result and someone arrested and charged and remanded with offences.
Yeah, it's a great trait to have when you're a police officer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing. So if anyone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do so? And do you have any advice for someone who does want to make a difference in the community but might be unsure of how they can do that?
So when I go into these schools, I say, like, does anyone want to help people? Because I don't go for the old pushing the police thing. That's not my role. I'm sure we've got like recruitment officers that do that. Especially kids that age. I say, do you want to do something that helps people? Because I think that's whatever you do that helps people is a good job. Is doing something good and giving back. That's my self for kids. And I said, but I sort of I reel through a few things about being a teacher, being a paramedic, and being a firefighter, and being a doctor, and being a staff, what they call the people who help the teachers, staff, teaching assistants, and different roles. I just say, as long as you do something that helps people, that's what you should aspire for. I give a few little broad examples. Pretty much I list what my brothers do: firefighter, postman, police officer, and then just say, do something that helps people. And that's my message to kids: do something with your life that contributes to something that's more important than yourself. I'm a bit with my kids. I sort of like checking myself a couple of times, but you know, when I was younger and I was with my brother's like, I'm joining the police. Why? And he really inspired me, my older brother, because I want to help people because I'm strong and he was like me. You know, he's all right at school, and but I feel like I can help people. And when you're little, and like my brother was saying that to me, I knew I was going to be a police officer then. But actually, there's more things that you can do as well, and I think you just got to balance that with. I want my kids to have a nice life. My life is nice. But I've got there's probably about, if I'm honest, 5 friends from school that I've still got, like proper friends. And all of them earn a lot more money than me. And I'm just conscious when I talk to my kids about passion and drive and helping people. Actually, I want you to have a comfortable life as well, and that's really tricky in the world now, isn't it? So I just want them to be conscious of that when they make their decisions about what they want to do, because ultimately you've got to like what you do. And I think if you do something that helps people, that's got to give you some sort of reward. That feel good factor. Because when I first met with my friends after uni, I had some good stories, but I got a bit bored of them after a while. And my mates would tell me, I did this accounting thing, but then they've got like nice houses and holidays and stuff. So I just think there's a balance between that, and that's I've got to think about how I deliver that to my kids as they get a bit older, but I want them just to be aware that money is something that you've got to be aware of, and with your decisions. But if you can do something that helps people, that's got to be a good start to the working in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Continuing from your story, so tell me, what goes through your mind when something like that happens? Do you think of your family, or is it just what's going on in that very moment? So
truthfully, no, I don't think about my family. I know that sounds awful, but I'm just being really honest. It didn't enter my head for a second, and neither did any level of fear. So my view on bravery is, unless I feel fear and then do a decision, that's brave. If I feel fear and then do something, I felt no fear whatsoever, because I know this sounds weird, it's hard to explain. I knew that I could just grab hold of that lad and I'd resolve it quickly. I knew, because I guess I've been in the police a long time. I know I've got powers. I know I can control people physically. So I just knew I'd deal with it. I know that sounds reckless, and maybe it is to a degree. But that's the benefit of being a police officer, is you've dealt with people and you know how to deal with things. And I knew I had to be quick. I knew I had to do something really. I knew I had a colleague with me he's the deputy chief constable. He's got more experience than me, and I know him a little bit, and I know he's going to get stuck in, and so I didn't feel any fear. I didn't think about my family, because if I had, if you do start thinking, if I start thinking, if I get stabbed here, my kids won't have a father, and that has happened obviously in policing and looting, but we get paid to take risks, and it felt like nothing really. It was a good job, but really safely resolved. It didn't feel like much. Another example I'll give you quickly. There was a job. I was the custody sergeant actually, and there was a guy outside the front attacking the station when Greyfriars was open with a machete, a massive machete and a hammer. And you're talking about my kids, and so that job was years ago, like 2013, 14, and ultimately it was captured on camera, and I managed to eventually, when we're trying to protect everyone, this lad was swinging this thing around, and I was the one who basically jumped on him and got him on the floor, and it was captured on camera. And then in my naivety as a younger man, one of the caught on camera things, Channel 5's Caught on Camera, one of those shows.
I've seen, yes.
Got in touch with our comm staff and said, can we interview Sergeant Phill Boyd? And I was young at the time, and I went, yeah, no problem. And I got interviewed, and then to this day I've still got this YouTube clip, right? And that job, I had a daughter. My daughter was like 1 at the time, and I went home and I didn't tell my wife a thing about it because I knew I'd done something really stupid. Yeah. Because armed response were en route to that job. But I had, I didn't feel any fear. It wasn't brave at all, because I think you have to feel fear to be brave, and I didn't feel anything. I just knew when that lad dropped his arms, I'd get him. And basically, my superintendent got me in the office a few days later and said, Phil, when that lad's convicted, I'm releasing that footage. And I said, sir, I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my wife about it. Yeah. She won't be happy with me. And he goes, Phil, but it really shows what a good job you did, and all the officers, lots of people surrounded this lad and wouldn't let him get towards the public. And anyway, so I told my wife, and she was really critical of me. You got your daughter was 1, what you're doing, but honestly, I can only explain it in my head. I knew I could get that lad. I knew I could get him before he would do anything, and that's our job, I think, to literally physically put ourselves in harm's way. So. Yeah, there was a bit of adrenaline going, but never 1 second did I feel scared, because I just knew, and the adrenaline does take you to places that you maybe as an ordinary person wouldn't want to go. I wouldn't want to do that, but one thing led to another, and suddenly I was the one with my finger pointing this lad's face saying, put that knife down now. Or there'll be a consequence. I've told you about the finger in the face consequence. And that's what I did to him. And at one point I was like, please put that knife down, please. And the minute he slowed down, and I think he just sort of let the machete go, he still had the claw hammer, I just went for it. His arms had dropped. I was a bit fitter then though, I got to him quite quickly. But that the reason I mentioned that one is that's on camera. And the other day I thought about showing my 11-year-old, and I said, see, you think Daddy just and does this, I don't really tell him what I do, and I said, I've got a video of something I did, so you can see what I did now. Yeah. And as soon as it came up, and the lad, you can see this lad waving this machete. He said, is that a knife? And I saw the look in his face, and I was like, no, he's not ready. And I turned it off straight away. I said, no, it wasn't a knife. It was just like someone being silly with a stick. So, that. I don't want my kids to know the stupid things, and I call them stupid. That I do a very quick risk assessment. I think I've got it, but there's plenty of examples where officers haven't been as lucky as me, and haven't made it home. But I think as an officer, you just got to balance that at the time with what you think is the right thing to do, and that's why I think officers really deserve a better reputation, because some of them take crazy risks, and it's daily. You don't see half the stuff that the officers do, and they really put their necks on the line to keep people safe, because like I keep saying, as critical as people are of the police, this world is really, really dangerous, and you'll only ever really have your eyes open to that if you either join the police or want some service that sees this daily. Go and work in the hospital and see what people are like, because people, as much as I love people, there's a lot of dangerous people out there, and there's a lot of vulnerability, there's a lot of complexity to the world, but some people who are really vulnerable actually might hurt you, might hurt themselves, and that's a tricky thing as well. So the world's complex, the world's dangerous, but look, we get paid to help people and stick ourselves in between that and between harm's way, and that's why we're police officers.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Manur.
And thank you for watching Youthology.
Make sure to like and subscribe
to join the conversation.